No one likes Hibiki, he says. You know, I'm not taking that kind of disrespect. I'll have to sneak my way into being relevant. Go off the script. Yes, that sounds right. And with that, I'll... Oh, sorry. Didn't see you there. Oh my god. The hell is that?
僕の名前はマハン。もう、みんなちゃんの今、大好き。これからは、マフンと一緒マフン。
Well, I was not expecting this episode to go the way that it did. If I had to sum it up with one reaction, it would be this. I mean, I did not see that coming. I had the deepest lore set, maximum brain energy, only for this episode to leave me completely smooth-brained. Wrinkle-free you and me.
Hi, how are you?
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just go ahead and talk about this week's King-Ohger. The Bowski is out getting that fortune told, but there's some ominous juju going on around his sister. Clearly, the man is concerned, but deadpans his tone when Raculus comes a-calling. He wants to meet with Jeremy, but on good terms. So the Bowski tries to wingman his way into taking Spider-Man over, but Raculus, being a dick to Jeremy, doesn't go favorably. That is, until Kuroda names drops Suzume. See, so now you got Jeremy curious on what exactly the deal is. So, it's time for some more lore. During the Fury of the Gods, there was a worldwide shortage of food. Tofu, being the agricultural center of the world, likely helped, right? Wrong. The previous king hoarded all the food to himself. The Bowski overthrew that previous king due to this and replaced him. Afterwards, the Bowski worked out a deal with Shugadam in order to get some of their lesser Shugods for crop production. But the cost to him was his sister. This has been your Fury of the Gods coverage for this week.
Fury's Godfest 08.
So as the others speculate regarding the Bowski's antics recently, Jeremy's got the answer. And it's between Raculus. Got that man's sister. Not only that, but he's wifing that up. Thus Jeremy sets up a pretty convincing, yet one-sided part of the story. This leaves Gira with a plan to take back Suzume and have the Bowski join the squad. This week's Monster of the Week is brought to you by the Kamen Rider Black remake. They got tossed in the trash and got flies all over it. I don't know why, but I probably would prefer that cut over what we got in Black Sun. Now back to King-Ohger. In trying to break into the castle, it would be pretty war declaring if any of the kings did it. And Gira's supposed to be dead. So, what do? Dress that man up like Lightspeed Hibiki and... Wait, speaking of, where is Lightspeed this week? Mr. Mofun, where are you taking me right now? What? I don't know Japanese. So, now that he's a taxi, Hat Guy, wait a second, makes his return, not to be late for his date. Now, on to time with King Dick, since Raculus wants to see about negotiating with the Bugnarok, with Jeremy as the mediator. But the condition is he freed the Bowski's sister, which he's not about, and she should actually be the one to choose. Well, too bad theft wasn't an option, because that's what Gira's up to, playing up the villain at the wrong time, causing old girl to have a fit, making the Bowski break that steel resolve and come to her aid. Too bad she don't want to go with that man, because she's down bad for King Diculus over there. So instead of giving up on Suzume, he's got a better idea. Tofu joins in the peace talks, but as a state of Shugadam, meaning the Bowski will be bending the knee to Raculus. Will he join? Well, when the others don't like the negotiation talk, the Bowski is quick to serve his new king. So, While he falls to his knees, Gira falls with grace, and Hat Guy gracefully gets rejected. Sucks, my guy. All that when the Bugnarok attack. So the Black Ranger must take on the Kamen Rider Black Reject, beating him down until he goes bigly. So now it's Spider-Man's turn, giving us Peak Robot. With a fight that looks so fluid for CG that I thought it was Suitmation for a hot second. Of course, he takes down the Rider Reject down with ease and style. So, with all said and done, Lebowski plays off his sister's betrothment, and Gira calls him out for it. But there's no need to worry, because Suzume is just as cunning as Lebowski is. Leaving us with one last task at hand. The negotiation talks. With this episode of KingOhger, we get the transformation of God Tarantula into Tarantula Knight. So with that, let's talk forms. Now, initially, I wasn't sold on the design of the KingOhger itself, but this is another story entirely. This is a sleek design that does look like the last 15 years of real robot anime designs, to counteract KingOhger's classic super robot vibes. I gotta give massive props to the designer of the mechs for this season because they are definitely putting in work. It's very sleek, looks agile, the abdomen of the spider becoming the cannon that he mostly uses as a web shooter. 10 out of 10 design. Out of the mecha that this show has released thus far, this is probably gonna be one of the only ones that I'll actually consider purchasing a toy of. Now, let's not end the talks there because this week's Bugnarok looked a little bit too familiar. So familiar that I went to the designer's Twitter and it gave me the answer that I needed along with a visual to boot. Take a look at that! You love to see it. Rating time! I gotta admit, I did not see the twist with Suzume coming, but we also got more answers but also questions regarding Lebowski. This was a continual ride of an episode per the norm, as to be expected from the show. So for that, this episode is gonna get the big old fat Raculous D-Way. What? Wait a moment. Let's try that again. This episode is gonna be getting the Abba Ranger A! They really gotta properly explain the hierarchy of how this world works, because right now we only know that Raculus and Gira are descendants of the first king. Himeno is the daughter of the previous royals, but it seems like Yanma and Lebowski earned their positions. What's confusing is the way that the Oja caliber works, since the only reason Gira was recognized as a user was because he and Raculus are of the same blood. But now it's becoming a little bit more common ground that these guys just gained their roles. It's a bit of a technicality that I just wish we got a little bit more of an explainer of. Because either they gained the rights to be kings, or Lebowski overthrew his dad, and Yanma was reduced to being an orphan and literally slumming it after his previous parents, who were the king and queen, got beaten up during the Fury. I don't know. It's just... we need a little bit more of an explainer when it comes to that, specifically when it comes to the Oja caliber, or else it kind of retcons the big reveal at the end of episode 5. As long as the reason why Gira gets his upgrade that we know is coming later on is not because he is a true descendant of the original king of Shugadam, because that would be so dumb. It really seems like, legends aside, everything about this show will be more or less centered around 2 pieces of lore. The events of the Fury of the Gods, which seems to have led to Himeno's rise to queendom, Yanma's rebuilding of Enkasopa, Lebowski usurping the previous king of Tofu and rebuilding it, and whatever we find out about Lil Rita next week. And the second lore piece being what Jeremy alluded to previously, being the events prior to the Great War 2,000 years ago, where it seemed that the Bugnarok and humankind had already coexisted. But yeah, all that aside, I have to admit that it seems like I was wrong, at least for now, in regards to Suzume. After shacking up with Raculus in return for some shoe gods, she got that Stockholm Syndrome on lock and is craving the Raculus D! Now, the graphic makes more sense. But we get a little bit more insight into Lebowski himself, along with the tease of something. When Raculus asks Dabowski about surrendering Tofu to Shugadam, we get that glimpse of Wheat and children laughing. Now, if you want to be a simple person, which might be the correct route, Dabowski might have been thinking of preserving the prosperity and happiness of his land. As such, he knew that if he did not comply, it would just be bad for Tofu. But another aspect is that maybe Dabowski lost someone or something during the Fury of the Gods as well. But he just doesn't want to give that away just yet. Add to that the scene at the end with Suzume looking like she has just as much resolve as her older brother just to do what's right for Tofu, meaning that the two might really just be playing the game just right to get things done. Now, whether or not her feelings for Raculus are indeed a lie, I doubt that. But she still has pride in her country. There's a build-up there that has me intrigued to see how this plot for Tofu will just move further ahead, as it still makes me believe that I might be onto something with Suzume being set up as a potential ranger or replacement if something happens to her older brother. With them literally willing to do whatever it takes for Tofu, maybe something drastic will happen, having Dabowski sacrifice himself for his land. Would they really go that dark with this kind of show? It's possible. I also like how even though this is technically the end of the Jeremy introduction arc, with us getting Tarantula Night, it lacked the spectacle of the previous two arcs' endings and brought it a bit more down to earth. But with the way that the episode ends and the preview goes, I'm thinking that these negotiation talks are going to be cut short pretty early on into the episode next week. So we'll just have to wait and see. Otherwise, what did you think about this week's KingOhger? Suzume being down bad for Raculus, Gira being a taxi, and Dabowski leading a revolution to rebuild Tofu. Anyway, that's it for me. I'd hoped to get this review out yesterday, but that opening bit alone took it took more editing than this actual portion of the review will take as a whole. Anyway, that's it for me. Until next time, bye.